Hey my friend, Sam Hamart for Test Driven TV. Now that the LA Auto Show is coming on, we've got two off-road midsize pickups, the Toyota Tacoma TRD Pro, and just revealed the Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. It's time for a face-off. Alright, let's get started here. I got to put it out there right up front that this is not a test drive comparison. I have test driven the TRD Pro Tacoma. It was a very brief test drive, and I've only ridden in the new Chevrolet Colorado ZR2. They haven't had the media launch yet. They're not out in the press fleet, so not been any chance to drive that. But we're talking today about the specs and how they stack up face to face. So let's talk about the TRD Pro Tacoma. It came out just last fall. It's on sale right now. Low to mid 40,000s in price, and basically what it comes with is a 1-inch lift. It's got a 1-inch wider track, and those are the two metrics we're going to talk about first. The new Chevrolet Colorado that was just unveiled at the LA Auto Show. I did get a ride in it, a little chance to ride in it, not drive yet. That actually has a 2-inch lift on it, and it has a 3.5-inch wider track. Now, specs have not been given out yet that actually give us numbers, hard numbers, on those two trucks, I should say, not on the Colorado. So on the Colorado, even though it has a 2-inch lift, we don't yet know what the actual ground clearance is that we can compare to that TRD Pro. And it may be very well better up front, but you know, when it comes to the rear axle, you've always got that low-hanging fruit of the differential, regardless of what kind of lift you have on the suspension. So that always sort of, it's just there, right? The other big difference between these two trucks is wheels. The Tacoma TRD Pro comes with its 16-inch alloys, 265 tires. The Colorado comes with 17-inch wheels, a little bit larger, but it's advertising 31-inch tires. So how those two tire and wheel combos actually step up, we don't know yet. That's just going to be one of the things down the road that we really have to look at. They both have skid plates, a full array of skid plates. The one thing that the Colorado does offer in terms of protection that we don't see on that TRD Pro, rock rails. The Colorado actually has functional, pretty beefy rock rails. I actually put my foot on them and I grabbed a hold of them, and they're not just ornaments. They really are pretty tough. So that's a nice little bonus there for the Colorado. Lockers. Now, the TRD Pro Tacoma comes with a rear locker. That's one of the things that makes it very versatile off-road, because you need to be able to do that. Now, the TRD Tacoma, the standard off-road, has that as well. The one thing the Colorado has that the Tacoma doesn't is a front locker. It has two, one in the front, one in the back. That allows you to take one more step in locking up all four of those wheels when you're crawling through some pretty difficult slippery situations, rocks, mud, whatever it might be. Now, that is a bonus for the Chevrolet. But let's step back a moment, because there is one thing that the Tacoma has here when we're talking about traction toys that even with its front and rear lockers, the Colorado doesn't, and that is the crawl control, the A-track, all of the devices and computer software systems that Tacoma does offer that might just compensate for the fact that you don't have a front locker. That's something that we're really going to have to do a test drive comparison to really see how that fleshes out, because that is a pretty sophisticated system there in the Toyota, and that's something that does not come in the Colorado. You don't have any kind of a crawl control or any of those things for forward motion. So that's one area where these two trucks are really going to be interesting to compare when we're really driving. Shocks. That's another thing that really sets these two trucks apart from their lower trim grade brethren. Up here on the Tacoma, we've got Fox Remote reservoir shocks. Down here, we've got something entirely new in the production setting. We've got Multimatic spool valve. I had to look at my list here because there's a lot of things. The shocks that come on the new Chevrolet Colorado are really intense. There's a lot of technology there. They're based on a lot of different metrics. There's several piston chambers, and they're all set for different positions of motion so that they give different reactions to different positions. So the theory is when you're cruising down the freeway, you've got a little bit more of a firm ride. When you start crashing into rocks and going over moguls, they offer a little bit more compliance, and it's really set up for a lot of different things. It sounds like they might be very good. I haven't driven it yet, and this is another area, just like with the traction and the lockers, these two trucks are really going to have to be compared side by side to see how they actually feel. I have driven the Toyota, and they're nice shocks. They have a nice ride, especially when you're blowing down a road at speed, a rough road. It just really gives a nice stable ride. The Colorado, we don't know yet. We have to trust what they say, that these are really good shocks. My only concern with the shocks is they look like they're going to be very expensive to replace when it comes time to do that. The next thing is towing. Now, off-road trucks are always tough when it comes to towing because when you soften up the suspension, when you add all that gear on there, you not only add weight to the truck, which takes away from your towing and your payload capacity, but because that suspension is not really geared to holding a trailer when you're going down the road, stable, sometimes that towing is less. Now, on the TRD Pro, towing is 6,400 pounds, payload 1,420. It actually didn't take a very big hit over the standard TRD off-road or the standard Tacoma trucks. On the Chevrolet Colorado ZR2, it did take quite a big hit. Here we've got a 5,000 pound towing capacity, which is down, and payload 1,100. Now that's still pretty good, but you can tell that this suspension and this truck is definitely tuned for a pretty off-roady type feel and drive, which again, we'll go back to when we get a chance to actually test drive these two trucks. So in this particular case, when it comes to towing capacity, that's something that's very important to you. I do think we have an advantage for the Tacoma. The last frontier here is engines frontier. That's a Nissan. Anyway, with the Tacoma, what we've got here is a 3.5 liter V6. It has a 6-speed automatic transmission and it has 278 horsepower. Not a lot of torque, actually less torque than the old 4-liter that was in the last generation. Less torque. So that is an engine that when you're out driving around, maybe crawling over rocks and things like that, you have to really do work it, and especially if you're driving with a manual. Now the Colorado, they offer something, two choices actually, that are actually quite good. We've got the new 3.6 liter V6 that has 308 horsepower, and this year an 8-speed automatic transmission. So right out of the gate, it's got more power, more torque, more gears, which is good for off-roading because if you're crawling, you've got a couple more gears down low when you're out there driving around. And the other big thing is that Colorado is available with a diesel, 181 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. That is what you want when you're out there rock crawling. I'm telling you, that really is an advantage for the Colorado. I really think it is. It's a big deal. And it really just depends on what you want out of your truck. I love diesels. I love crawling around in a 4x4 with a diesel because you can just kind of let it idle along and just roll into the throttle, just the lightest bit, and it just goes. I mean, that is something that Toyota could do. They've got a diesel they could offer. They just haven't done it. And that gets us to the fact that Toyota is just the #1 selling truck there is in the midsize segment. It always has been for quite some time, and it very well likely may continue to be so because there is the anecdotal evidence out there that it's very reliable. And compared to the Chevrolet, there are probably a lot of people out there that still don't quite see that as the reliability choice here. We don't know that yet. It's sort of an untested thing in the market. At the end of the day, these are just presentations here. I haven't really rendered a decision on either of these, but I will say that I think the Colorado ZR2 has a lot of things going for it that could make it quite competitive. That extra locker in the front, the extra engine choices, and the extra track, a little bit more height. So those are things that are really going to be fleshed out when we get to drive both of these two and then do face-off round 2. Until then, I want to know what you think. Comment down below. Let's talk about it because I'm excited by both of these trucks. I've driven the one, as I said, and I have ridden in the other. And in that way, 2 videos right here that you can go click on and get more information on both, the ride, the drive. Have some fun with it, man.